Hi friends, Mrs. Sanderson in our library at school. Hopefully soon we'll have some of you here to see it. All right, it is now October, officially fall, and we are going to read 2 books about fall. Mouse's First Fall, and I don't know anybody who doesn't love a good apple. Great author Gail Gibbons. We'll be reading a lot of her stuff. And again, we're going to read these 2 books now. All right, here we go with Mouse's First Fall. He is a cute little mouse. Mouse's First Fall by Lauren Thompson. She would be our author. Illustrated by Paquette Erdogan. Illustrations, meaning of course the pictures in our book. One cool fall day, and Minka come out to play. Minka, mouse. Tumbling and twirling, fall leaves fell all around. Look at all the colors, said Minka. Mouse saw red leaves and yellow leaves and orange leaves and brown leaves. Pretty. Some bright orange ones up there with red and orange in them. Look at all the shapes, said Minka. Mouse is looking at her leaves there. One's very pointy. A couple of these here have curvy edges. Mouse saw round leaves and skinny leaves and pointy leaves and smooth leaves. Yay! Let's run through the leaves, said Minka. Mouse ran and skipped and kicked and swished through the leaves. Fun. He looks quite happy. Let's pile them up, said Minka. And what does one do after they make a pile of leaves? Mouse piled the leaves high. 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, lots of leaves. Yippee! That leaf is so much bigger than Mouse. What a big pile, said Minka. Let's jump in. Mouse leaped and jumped and plopped and rolled into the leaves. Whee! Here in the distance, we have more leaves falling and a tree back there. Little Mouse is happy, having a good time. I'm hiding, called Minka. Can you find me? Where is Minka? Oh, would that be Minka? Mouse peeked and poked and peered between the leaves. Where could Minka be? Then out popped Minka. Here I am, hooray! Hooray for Minka, hooray for Mouse. Hip hip hooray for fall. And I bet most of you could tell me what they're wearing on what kind of tree that might come from. Lots. And now we're going to read Apples by Gail Gibbons. Lots of different varieties of apples. We have red apples, yellow apples. Picture of a few apples right there. An apple is a fruit. It grows on an apple tree. Apple trees grow in more parts of the world than any other fruit tree. They have been in existence for about 2 million years. Colonists brought apple seeds and seedlings with them from England. A seedling is a very young, small tree. So there we see them with the seeds. And of course, the seedlings. Small trees. As the colonists moved westward, they brought apple seeds and seedlings with them. Some settlers found that Native American Indians had already brought apple seeds west and had apple trees growing near their villages. Many times during the early 1800s, John Chapman traveled throughout the wilderness of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Indiana planting apple seeds. Also, he gave seeds and seedlings to the settlers there. He became known as Johnny Appleseed. Some apples are grown at home, but most are grown commercially. And that, of course, means to sell in the store. Each year, about 250 million bushels of apples are grown in the United States, and about 28 million bushels are grown in Canada. A group of apple trees is called an apple orchard. An apple is a firm, crisp, fleshy fruit with a hard center called a core. The core has 5 seed chambers. So this is a Macintosh apple. We see the stem. You see a picture of the core. And then the different chambers with the seeds in them. In the springtime, flowers called apple blossoms begin to bloom on the apple trees. Each blossom has to be pollinated in order for an apple to grow. The blossoms are usually pollinated by insects or by the wind. And this shows us how pollination happens when a grain of pollen from a stamen lands on the stigma of another blossom. After a while, the blossoms begin to die and apples start to grow. Throughout the warm summer, the little apples grow bigger and bigger. This is the Golden Delicious variety. During the late summer or early fall, the apples ripen. When the trees are loaded with ripe apples, it is harvest time. Workers pick the apples by hand. Some are shipped to stores. Some are used to make apple juice, apple cider, apple jelly, applesauce, and lots of other apple products. Some are sold in baskets at roadside stands, or like we have here in PD at a farmer's market. Maybe you've bought apples there. During the fall, it is fun to go apple picking. And you can do that around here. It's a drive, but you can apple pick around Los Angeles. Also, there are country fairs. Awards are given to the best looking apples, the best tasting apples, and the most delicious applesauce. There is apple cider too. During Halloween, there are caramel apples and candy apples. Some people bob for apples. There's the caramel and candy apples. And there's our friends bobbing for apples. When winter arrives, the apple branches become bare. The trees will become dormant until the next spring. And dormant, it says here, means they are alive but not actively growing. So the trees are like resting until the next spring, when the trees will produce a new crop of apples. Apples have many tastes, ranging from sweet to tart. All apples are different shades of yellow, green, and red, or a mix of those colors. Some common apples grown in North America, here on our chart, which would mean in the United States and Canada. A Rome Beauty, Macintosh, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, and on this page we have a Jonathan, a Stamen, a York, and the green Granny Smith. An apple tree will not grow until it is about 5 to 8 years old. Each spring, the tree branches are trimmed, and this is called pruning. Talks about here how to care for your apple tree. Most apple trees grow to be about 20 feet tall. The soil around the tree should be fertilized. The pruning and fertilizing helps produce lots of good apples. And pruning is the cutting back of the branches and cutting off any dead ones. Make your own apple pie with the help of an adult. Here's how an apple cider press works. So these are the directions for baking a pie. You can look up recipes on the internet as well. Good thing to do with your parents. And I don't think you find many apple presses around, but this is a fun illustration of how they work. There are thousands of varieties or kinds of apples. And in fact, here our page shows us more that weren't mentioned before. The Golden Russet, Tompkins King, Suncrisp, King David, Ozark Gold, Prairie Spy, Wagoner, Honey Gold, Newtown Pippin, Molly's Delicious, Liberty, and a Keepsake. They are nutritious and delicious. All right, some fun facts about apples. I'll read a few of them here. The smallest apples, called crab apples, make good apple jelly. The most popular apple in the United States is the Red Delicious. The states of Washington, New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and California produce the most apples in the United States. Johnny Appleseed was born in Leominster, Massachusetts, and died in Fort Wayne, Indiana. One apple, the Arkansas Black, is reddish purple and becomes nearly black by the end of the season, which is probably why it has that name. All right, and there's a few more there if you want to take the time to pause it and read some more facts about apples, my friends. Apples, apples, apples. Apples by Gail Gibbons.